short history of the country and the project as well, and then we'll go on to talk about next week's project.
Okay, so I'm just going to give you a brief history of the country. So basically, Cambodia is a really small country. It's only got about 15 million people, so it's absolutely tiny, much smaller than the UK. It's located between Vietnam, Thailand and Laos, and its population is predominantly Buddhist. So they went through a civil war which started in 1970, and during this time education was all but destroyed. The Khmer Rouge were in power between 1975 and 1979, and education was systematically eradicated. So schools and universities were closed, and some of them were even turned into prisons. During this genocide, the educated were specifically targeted, including teachers, librarians, and even people who wore glasses. Currently, the Cambodian People's Party has now held power since the end of the Khmer Rouge regime. And when we were there last summer, elections took place, and this was the first time that any opposition has gained significant support. So with people now calling for change in the government, this is a really exciting time for the future of education in Cambodia. So on the next slide, these are just some pictures that we took. This was at the Cambodian War Museum, which we went and visited. It was really good to go and see and find out how it's still affecting Cambodian people today. And this picture shows you, these are some of the skulls that we saw. They were at the killing fields. And the picture on the right is a picture of Tul Slang, which was a high school in the capital city, Phnom Penh, which was turned into a torture facility. And these were some of the rallies that we saw. This was the opposition rallying for support while we were there in Phnom Penh, which is really exciting. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what we did last year and a bit about the project history. So we taught in 3 different schools last year, 2 of which were run by the same NGO called VDCA. And this year we've decided that we're going to leave VDCA because they've become very successful and they no longer need our support. So these 2 schools, they offered English, German, art and IT classes, as well as various sports opportunities. Alungpi, which was the branch of VDCA, which was in the village that we worked at as well, had also expanded out into sustainable areas of charity work, such as fish farming, which was helping to fund the school. So it's a really good example of how a free school can become successful. It was really impressive while we were there. And it's basically what we're hoping that our 2 schools this year will turn into. So the 3rd school that we taught at was AIO, which was run by Mr. Posh, who was just the most lovely guy you'll ever meet. We had such a good time. He set up a school in his house. It only had 3 rooms, so it was absolutely tiny. And it was really impressive the amount of work he put in to set up this school off his own back in this village. The classrooms were very cramped and it had really limited resources. So last year our donations went towards a new school which has now 5 classrooms, an office, and space for IT and sports facilities. They've actually now moved into that school, which we're really excited about, and it seems to be going really well. We really enjoyed the teaching when we were there, and at first it seemed really daunting and really scary, but eventually you get over your first day nerves and you just have such a good time. The kids were so well behaved and they just really want to learn, and the language barrier isn't a problem at all. You just get on with it and you have such a good time, and we all absolutely loved it. So the next slide I'll show you, this was AIO, so at the top that's a picture of all of us with Mr. Posh. That was his house that he taught in, and below it was the new school which was just under construction but has now been finished. And that's a picture of VDCA, so that's the school that we've now left. But it gives you a really good example of what donations and what things like SVA money can go towards. And these are some pictures of us teaching. So you can see us playing lots of games. I think we probably thought we were going to teach them lots of games, but we ended up being taught quite a few ourselves, which was really interesting. And we also got to teach some monks, which was also really interesting to learn a bit more about their way of life. So there you go. Pass over to Fiona.
Yeah, so to tell you a bit about this year's project, we are working with 2 different NGOs. So we've got New Hope of Children Association. So that's actually the new name for Mr. Posh's organisation. So what Lindsey was calling AIO, it's the same thing. And Friendship Organisation for Development is our new organisation. We've just last year we formed links with them, so it's really exciting to be starting work with the new school. And both these organisations, they are focused on providing education and support to vulnerable children. So yeah, they mostly do this through education, but as Lindsey said, there are like all other forms of like sustainable development projects always in the works. So in the first school, Mr. Prosh's school, there's 5 classrooms and there's about 350 students, so it's a little bit bigger. The second school is run by a monk named Darryl, and there's 3 classrooms and about 180 students, so it's a little bit smaller. And I think we've got some pictures. So again, there's Mr. Prosh, and yeah, the school's in a little village just outside of Siem Reap, so that's what you can see on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, that's you cycle to the school every day, so that's the sort of cycle path that you can take. It's actually real. And then there's the Friendship Organisation for Development. The top picture is the school, and the bottom one, I don't know if you saw on the last slide, it said that the school's actually in a sort of pagoda complex, so the monk that runs the school also runs a pagoda, so you can visit that and see it's very beautiful. And he's actually offered to teach volunteers about different sort of meditation techniques in Buddhism, so that's another opportunity for you guys. Okay, so the project structure, we're looking for 8 volunteers to go out for 8 weeks during the summer, and you'll be staying in our best Western guest house, which is just there in the picture. It's in the centre of Siem Reap, so we're really close to everything you could need. And yeah, it's really lovely. It's run by Claire and Bob, who will support you with anything. They're involved with the organisations, so they can help you with that, or just sort of general life. They're really great. So yeah. So the project aims, firstly, assisting teaching at both the schools. So you'll always be in the sort of formal English classes, you'll always be paired with a Khmer teacher. So you work with them to sort of prepare the classes and deliver them. So it's nice to have that sort of support, but they are very open to your suggestions. And class sizes can vary, quite often they are quite big. And they're organised by ability and not by age, so you can have a range of different ages in one class, so that's quite fun a lot of the time. And yeah, as Lindsey said, the students are really well behaved, much better than schools here. Okay, and the second one, start conversation classes. So we've spoken to Mr. Prosh about this, and we're hoping to start up some conversation classes for the teachers. So they would be reasonably informal, and just maybe like 2 or 3 volunteers, and yeah, focused on conversation. Yeah, Mr. Prosh would help organise the time for that. And the third one, help schools network. Basically, we just want to make sure that the schools are taking full advantage of sort of internet opportunities, social networking, try and reach out, get more sponsors, more links, more things like SVAs, and you can get a more constant stream of volunteers throughout the year, things like that, just to really encourage support for them. And the fourth one is research into hygiene and sanitation project. So the FOD school and the community where that is don't have any access to clean water at the moment. And so like we've started a bit of research into that, trying to find out what the problems are and like what's been done to try and fix that. And we're hoping the volunteers can continue that on with the aim of creating a hygiene project for that community. So that's the project aims. And costs and fundraising. So our target is £7,000, so that's for the project, and it'll be split, yeah, as you can see, group total and then individuals. But yeah, it's very attainable. And flights are between 500 and 600. Yeah, I think the best way to get there is to fly to Bangkok, and then onward travels about to £70. Yeah, as you can see, vaccinations. Best of on your best of your doctor for that. But yeah, there we go. Oh, there's some of our fundraising. So there's our first ever bake sale. We did a Bikram yoga event, so that was a lot of fun. The big pile of money, we got that from doing bagpacking Marks and Spencers, and we got over £1,000 for that, so not bad for a day's work.
So I'm just going to give you a bit of extra information. So there's lots of travel opportunities whilst you're both in Cambodia and after the project. I don't think we ever had a weekend where we didn't have something to do either related to the project or somewhere that we wanted to travel to. We were constantly kept busy. So in the Siem Reap itself, you're located right next to Angkor Wat Temple, which we went and visited twice actually. It was absolutely amazing. I don't think anybody goes to the Siem Reap without seeing it. It's the biggest religious monument in the world. There's also the Mine Museum and War Museum, which I mentioned earlier, which is really good to go to for some extra information. And in Cambodia more generally, we went to the capital city Phnom Penh, which was really interesting, and places like Battambang, and we even managed to fit in a wee beach holiday to Singapore, which was, it was good fun. It's also, Southeast Asia is just an amazing place to travel around. We spent a month afterwards travelling around Thailand and Vietnam. I think as someone said earlier, it's definitely not included in the project, but if you want to do it, do take full advantage of that. We certainly did. It's very easy and cheap to travel around. So this is just a rough route of what we did. So started off in Cambodia, and then we went from southern Vietnam all the way up to north. We flew back to Thailand, and then we split up a bit. Some of us went to the northern part, and some of us went down and did the islands for another 2 weeks. So here's some pictures. This is some of the countryside in Cambodia. That's Angkor Wat at the bottom. It's actually where Tomb Raider was filmed, so that's quite an interesting fact. That's some places we went to see in Vietnam. We absolutely loved it. It was so much fun. That's Halong Bay on the right. I'm sure you've heard of that. And then these are some things we did in Thailand as well. It was really nice to relax all together at the end of 2 months of working hard together. It was such a nice ending to it. And thank you very much for listening. If you've got any questions, then don't hesitate to email us. Thanks very much.